Hi, welcome back to Lists, a podcast where we count down our top picks in a variety of categories as a springboard into deeper or dumber conversations about art, media, and popular culture. My name's Colby Cuppernell, writer, English teacher, and our resident expert on all things literary.
And my name is Scott Cassidy. I'm a filmmaker, screenwriter, and our pod's expert on all things cinematic.
Indeed you are. Welcome back.
All right, here we go again.
All right, so this week we are doing our top 5 airport paperbacks.
Indeed we are.
How'd that week look for you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a stretch. We'll see what you think of my choices, and we can talk about that. But yeah, I don't know. Was it easy for you?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm
glad you suffered.
Yeah. One thing I realized was, I thought that I actually read a lot more of these books than I actually do.
Okay, that's exactly my experience.
So I guess I'm proud of myself. I don't know.
Wow, that's convincing. Yeah.
I don't know. I maybe I just have a different definition of airport paperback than other people because I'm perfectly fine reading, I was going to say Lolita in an airport, but why
that is your example?
Why is that the book that, because I'm down in my office and I've got books all around me and the first book my eyes land on is Lolita.
Sure.
That is terrible. Oh my God.
Yikes.
All right. What's the next book okay. I'm perfectly fine reading Karl Marlantes' Matterhorn in an airport.
Okay. Thankfully, it wasn't like Mein Kampf sitting next to it or something. You would have been in real trouble.
I do not have a copy of that.
I know. I'm joking.
In a very disturbing twist, since you brought that up, that is a popular book at our school. Like, it gets checked out of the library a lot.
Gross.
Every single trimester, I have at least one student read that book. Or, well, I should put it this way. At least one student
check it out.
Reads the first, 6 pages of it.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, we're not going to go into that at all.
No. So anyway, yeah, I had a similar experience. Like, I apparently do not read very many popcorny books, which is weird because I watch plenty of popcorn movies.
Right, yeah, so do I. I enjoy the hell out of them.
Okay.
We literally just talked about how I love Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah, exactly. I just watched the new Spider-Man movie recently, which completed my, tour of however many it is now, 23 or something. I have seen all MCU, superhero movies.
Have you really?
Yeah, I've seen all of them. So apparently I have no problem watching popcorn movies.
Hey, what did you think of the Spider-Man one?
It was a little disappointing. Not as good as the first one, I didn't think.
No, it was not as good as the first one. I did.
And my main takeaway after those 2 Spider-Man movies is that Spider-Man is far less interesting in both those movies than the villains.
That's a pretty good point, actually.
It seems like maybe a problem, but
he's got an obvious charm about him,
No, I'm not saying he doesn't.
Right, but as far as being an interesting
yeah.
character, he does lean more towards the sort of Superman type of not so conflicted type of character,
Well, there's been other Spider-Man movies that have done interesting things. These are just kind of, I don't know, it's a little boring what they do with them.
Maybe it's just where we are in life because my son loves them. He loves these Spider-Man movies.
Well, good. They're for him.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think we're just past the point of having any interest whatsoever in teenage angst.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that's true. I can appreciate it still.
Yeah, I have a hard time. Maybe it's because I'm around it so much.
Oh, well, that's probably... Yeah, I can see that. But anyway, the point being,
yeah,
I watch lots of popcorn movies, but not books, I guess. But anyway, so I was thinking about for this list, why is it that I don't read as many airport paperbacks, we've called them?
Because you're...
And I think Well, I think part of it is, you can watch a popcorn movie in 2 hours, right? A book's going to take longer than that.
Yeah, it's a commitment.
It's a commitment. And like you're committing to something you kind of have heard or know going in isn't going to be like super substantial.
Right.
And it's like, do I really want to invest the time? Like, especially me, I'm a slow reader. Like it takes me weeks to read anything.
I'm the same. I'm a slow reader, and I'm deliberately a slow reader.
Yeah, I don't want to speed up. Like speed read. I don't skip words.
No.
I reread sentences and paragraphs often.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's, one of the great things about reading is that it's a recursive act. You're constantly, whether you know it or not, going back over the previous sentence, flicking your eyes up to a couple paragraphs at the top, doing those kinds of things that the brain is not capable of, nor does the medium allow with film or even with music.
Right.
That's part of the reason that literature is so powerful and involves parts of the brain that you're not going to get cooked up necessarily in other medium.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, interesting.
Anyway.
All that is a way of saying I apologize for if my list isn't that great. I did the best I could.
While my list may not be as thorough as some people's, I'm pleased with it from my perspective.
Sure.
I would be really curious because, as you know, my father and my stepmother are both pilots, and so they're in the airport all the time. And I know they both read quite a bit. My dad reads a lot of magazines, but he also reads a lot of books, and he does Kindle. So I don't know how that impacts it, maybe. But I'd be curious to hear from them and from, their colleagues and friends who are in airports just constantly, because it lends itself to, the ability to focus in an airport is not all that great, so it lends itself to that type of text.
Right. All right. Well, before we get into our top 5 airport paperbacks, do we have anything we want to go over from previous episodes?
I do. I got a comment from
oh, nice.
Yeah, from a Brian in Chicago.
Okay.
And it was about the top 10 TV comedies, and it was what I would consider to be a glaring omission. Yeah, I as soon as I read the comment and heard the title of the show, I went, oh my God. Yeah. I'm not sure that it would have been in the top 10 for me, but it
should have been considered.
Certainly merited a mention. And that was FX's The League.
Oh, I had thought of it.
Did you?
Yeah, it was on my, I don't know, when I got it down to 20, I think it was still on there.
Okay, it would have been like right on the edge of the bubble, if not 10 for me. I really enjoyed that show. Rafi cracks me up. Like, it is crass, disgusting, amazing humor of the highest order, and I love it. It's a nice, delicious counterpart to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They go so well together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rafi's theory on crapping out the booze is one of the greatest things ever stated.
That sounds like hyperbole, but okay.
You've heard Rafi's theory on crapping out the booze, right?
I mean, probably once. It didn't stick out. I don't remember.
Oh my God. He has this idea that it doesn't matter if he gets wasted. He can drink if he's the designated driver, because all he's got to do is go upstairs and crap out the booze and he's good to go.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like Rafi.
Rafi's just an animal. Like, Rafi on his own would be a top 15 consideration for me.
I especially liked later on, they had like whole Rafi episodes. I remember it wasn't one he like goes off with Seth Rogen to some crazy
Dirty
plot.
Randy.
Dirty Randy.
Dirty Randy, the filmmaker. Oh, I gotta rewatch The League now. I'm cracking myself up thinking about it. Brian, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot this. And it's set in Chicago, which, near and dear to my heart. And it's so funny.
Well, excellent reminder there, Brian. Thank you for writing in.
Anyway, the league is good. It's definitely a
No,
specific type of humor.
that's probably true.
It is.
No, yeah.
That falls into the category of not for everyone.
Sure. Yeah. That's okay.
Oh, man. All right. Yeah. So that was my big thing from last week that kind of came up was it's cool to hear that people are kind of digging back into the archives a little bit. And,
Yeah, we love to hear that.
I like it. Makes me happy. So, yeah.
Yeah. I have a little feedback of my own. I was a good podcast listener, and I caught up with one of your selections.
You're trying to insult me.
I'm trying not to. Have you watched or read or listened to anything I've ever listed on this podcast?
I'm a teacher. I have a hard job, and I have a baby. A baby we just discovered is allergic to amoxicillin, and I had to call for a sub in an emergency situation 25 minutes before school was supposed to start. Oh my God. This week.
Excuses.
So, to answer your question, no, I have not.
All right, fine.
But I'll tell you what.
Maybe sometime soon. Someday I'll hold out
hope. It is
hope.
coming, I promise. I did just get HBO Go set up, so I'm planning on hitting up The Leftovers. Very, very soon.
Well, that's not actually been on any list officially, but okay. That's still pretty good.
Well, it was mentioned. That's got to count for something, right?
Well, more than nothing, that's for sure.
I will say I really want to watch Roma. That's high up on my to-do list.
Oh. Well, okay.
So.
Well, anyway, to get to what it wasn't some super long thing. I read like 28 pages for you. But I caught up with the short story Sonny's Blues by James Baldwin.
Oh.
Which is, that was our last week. That was our top fictional rivalries, one of your picks.
Oh my gosh. And?
Oh, it was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank James Baldwin. Don't thank me, man.
Well, yeah, thank you, James Baldwin. I need to read everything that you've ever written now.
Seriously. The man, I mean, fiction and nonfiction, he's a genius.
Okay. What should I read next?
I would say find a good collection of his essays, just because, and I know that doesn't sound like super exciting, but I know you, and I know that like thinking is something that actually fascinates you, unlike a lot of people. Baldwin
thank you.
writes about he really brings American culture in the 1960s to life the 1950s and the 1960s to life in a way that very few writers did. And
well, just in the fictional Sonny's Blues, as they're driving into town, it was fascinating.
Oh, it's a masterpiece. If it is not, and I think I said this on the pod, but I'll say it again. If it is not the greatest short story ever written, it is tied with a handful of others for the title of greatest short story ever written.
Yeah, it was good stuff. I now also highly recommend it. Thank you.
The ending?
Oh, yeah, it was good.
Oh my God.
Maybe you shouldn't have said it was a massive gut punch. I think maybe I overhyped it a little in my head before I read it.
It's always a risk. Yeah.
Yeah. But still excellent. I don't know. It was a better, like, note perfect ending than it was a gut punch, really.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. I think it's, we talked about top 10 movies that made you cry, right?
Right.
That's a short story that comes damn near.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
a few times.
Yeah. It's really something else. It's just and the great thing is it's a short story. It's easily accessible. You can find it. I mean, you read it, I'm sure, in a single sitting.
I just entered it into Google, and there was a free PDF I found. I just read it on my phone.
It's so widely taught that teachers have to put it up for their students, and you'll find it. But really just interesting. Honestly, one of the greatest minds we've ever produced. We don't deserve him.
All right. Well, that sounds really fascinating. I'm definitely going to check out and yeah, looking forward to getting into that. But for now, I guess we should probably start this pod here.
Yeah,
Top 5 airport
I
paperbacks.
just realized as you were saying it, we're moving from talking about the brilliance of James Baldwin to the top 5 airport paperbacks.
Hey,
Uh,
it's all good.
yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's, I guess, take a quick break and then we'll start counting it down.
giddy up.
You're listening to Lists. This podcast is so much more fun when we get to interact with you. So please send us your lists, tell us when you agree or disagree with ours, and send us ideas for future topics you want us to do. You can reach us directly by emailing us at listthepod@gmail.com. That's listthepod@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all of them at listthepod. And you can always find every episode of this podcast, links to all our social media, polls, all kinds of other fun stuff on our website, liststhepodcast.com. And now back to our top 5 airport paperbacks.
All right, and we're back with our top 5 airport paperbacks. I guess I will get things started this week. You ready?
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
Quickly, rules.
Yeah, what were they, Colby?
That is a good question. I don't really remember.
I think we said nothing by, one choice per author or something.
I don't think we said that, but I think we said like one choice per series.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
And we did. Mm-hmm. We said that the definition was loosely a book that's meant to be read for fun and doesn't have a ton of literary value, but that's reasonably
But
loose.
We agreed we could stretch that a little bit.
Yeah, you could stretch that a little bit. It could be something that does have its literary value, but would probably be in like that second tier of literary writers, maybe.
Yeah, and you could still find it in an airport bookstore.
Yeah, like a bestseller that does have some literary merit. It does happen once in a while.
There you go. All right, well, kick us off.
All right, here we go.
Curious.
You ready?
I wonder if we're going to have any of the same. Maybe not.
Yeah, with this one, there's such a wide array that it's hard for me to imagine us having any of the same.
Yeah, we might not.
But it's possible. It's possible.
We can always surprise ourselves. All right, go ahead.
All right, so number 5 for me is kind of a surprise because it is not a genre I read ever. I have no interest in it. One of the reasons that I've been completely unable to even really try to get into the show, because it was made into a show, is that it's just not a genre I ever care about. I just don't like it. But I like this. So number 5 is the first Game of Thrones book, Song of Ice and Fire. So, yeah, I actually read the first Game of Thrones book, even though I've never seen an episode of the show.
I believe it's called A Game of Thrones, yeah?
No, the first book.
Like the series is called. The series is called A Song of Ice and Fire, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I must have flipped them in my head. Anyway, but it is top 5 for me because it is a genre that I don't really care for at all. But I found it completely engrossing. And if you've seen these books, you know that they're massive. I would say that the only reason I haven't read the rest of the series is just that it's such an enormous commitment because the books are bricks, they're huge.
Right.
It's just too much of a commitment for me with all the other stuff that I want to read. That being said, I read the first book. I read it pretty quickly because it's a page turner. It really moves well. It's got interesting characters. The characters are well drawn. The action is good. I don't feel like I have to explain it a ton because I imagine the vast majority of people listening have seen the show. But again, not my thing. It's an interesting take on it with the whole like kind of zombie-ish dudes or whatever they are.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's it's just a good story and a page turner. I enjoyed it. I could see myself going back and either reading that one again or picking up the second book. I have to imagine, if I'm being honest, I think I'm far more likely to read the books than I am to watch the television series.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I know.
I obviously have seen the show. I have not read any of the books, so.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you liked the show, I haven't seen the show, so I guess I can't recommend it perfectly, but I would say the book was good. It was good.
Okay. Well, it's probably safe to recommend, yeah.
I mean, they picked it to make a show out of for a reason.
Right, yeah. So I know, just knowing something about the books, that he does like each chapter is from a certain character's point of view.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he does a nice job of giving each of them. A lot of times when an author does that, and it's in that sort of airport paperback vein of literature, it's all of the characters just sound the same. All they're really doing is changing the name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The voices are not very unique. That's not the case with this. Each it alternates between probably six to seven characters. And they each have a unique voice, and they each have a compelling story that they're telling. I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right. Interesting. Well, maybe I should pick those up now that the show's over. Although the big barrier for me is that they're not finished yet. Like, he still has 2 more books to go to finish the story.
Yeah, well, I got a feeling by the time, how many have been published? Like 6, 5?
I think 5. He has 2 more to go.
Well, hasn't he written like some short stories or other stuff from that?
Well, yeah, and he's started other TV shows, and he's...
Find something else to read, you nerds. Everybody needs to chill out.
Complaint is that, hey, quit doing all these other things and just sit down and finish.
Yeah, that to me screams creative block.
Well, maybe.
I'm
sure having your work be adapted into a TV show in the middle of it has got to be a surreal wrench to the process.
It's got to be. I honestly, I can't imagine how you would complete it, because especially if they do complete it, you've got to feel like it's resolved in your mind. Done. Yeah. I don't know how you would do that.
It's got to be tough.
But then again, I can't imagine he's complaining given the paychecks I'm sure he receives.
Yeah, I'm sure he's, crying himself to sleep and wiping his tears with $100 bills.
You can handle some dragon cosplayers' complaints when you've got the money he has.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lovely problem to have thousands and millions of fans wanting your next book to hurry up.
Clamoring for it. But at the same time, he's kind of pinned in a corner here. Just think about this.
Yeah, that's true.
Is there literally anything he could write that would satisfy people?
Oh, probably not.
No, like he's going to get shit on like you wouldn't believe no matter what he puts out. It could be the greatest fucking piece of fantasy literature ever written. It could put The Hobbit on a pyre and burn it because it's so good, and they would still be unhappy.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, that's enough about that.
Okay. But I like it. Number 5. All right, Game of Thrones.
You know what? That really surprised me that it was there. I got to admit. I did not think. But when I started thinking about it, I thought that one jumped right to mind, because it totally an airport buy, totally read it literally in an airport. Probably the only one on my list I actually did that with.
Oh, okay. All right. So my number 5 came out in 2013, and it is literally an airport buy for me. I remember buying it.
What airport?
Oh, man, I forget. Come on now. I do remember that I read it, and then a little bit on my destination was, and then I finished it on the flights back. So it was a one-trip book.
Oh my God. I think I remember you telling me about this, but I have no other even inkling of what it is. But I do remember you went on some vacation and you were telling me about a book that you read.
All right. So it is by an author that I know you've at least read something by, because I stole your copy and it is still in my room right now. Sorry about that. Anyway, my number 5 is The Circle by Dave Eggers.
You did steal my copy, you bastard.
of his a heartbreaking work of staggering genius.
Dave Eggers broke onto the literary scene with a memoir that is a masterpiece called A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius. And if you haven't checked that out, check that out. I don't particularly...
Or just steal a copy from your friend and you get it for free. Yeah.
God, I think I'm on like my third copy of that because people keep stealing it. It's just good. It's really good. Talk about
it was really
heartbreaking books, and it's right there in the title.
Yeah,
cocky bastard.
Yeah, he wasn't wrong.
No, I mean the staggering genius part.
Well, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I mean it's really good. It's excellent.
It's good,
but whatever. We're talking about The Circle. I'm not a fan of his fiction, but you tell me. Talk to me.
You haven't read this though, right?
No, I have not.
Okay. So yeah, it came out in 2013. It is about this fictional internet tech company called The Circle. And so our main character, May, is a recent college graduate and she goes to work at the Circle, right? And so it's all like, it skewers, like Google and Apple with companies like that with these massive campuses where like people basically live at work and there's
cult of personality.
Yeah.
So
it's got that going on. And it's also the book's very anti-internet and like social media and culture.
I'm listening.
Yeah, it's pretty much skewers it as much as possible. It is also, and this where I might lose you a little bit, it's kind of a 1984 ripoff.
And I'm out.
But not as in your face.
Well, what could be, except the Scarlet Letter.
All right. Anyway, so one of the main technologies in the book is something called Sea Change, which is SEE change, and they're like portable cameras. And so the company's pushing putting them everywhere so we can provide real-time video to everyone. And politicians eventually agree to start wearing them all day long to quote unquote go transparent. And then so it's all about going transparent, and the company is like secrets are lies and privacy is theft and stuff like that.
Meanwhile, they've got nothing but secrets.
Of course. Yeah, and so our main character is like this innocent recent college graduate. And I mean, there's a couple mysterious like love interest guys at the company and stuff like that keeps it readable and page turning. And then you'll especially like, if you ever read this, the character of her ex-boyfriend, Mercer, who dislikes the internet and tries to go off the grid, and like when she tells him how she's moving up in the company, becomes more and more horrified and stuff like that. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's a fun read. It's the social scores of the Circle is just governing people's lives, and it skewers like outrage culture, like people are wearing these video cameras and do something relatively innocuous, but everyone's like, oh, shame, and their score goes way down, and they're like, pariahs in society now and whatnot.
So like Yelp, but for human beings.
Yeah, sort of.
Did you know China's piloting something like that? I heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how far along it is. This was a story I heard a while ago on the radio as I was driving into work. But they were talking about it's kind of like a credit score, but it takes into account a much broader scope of things, like social elements. And so that's going to determine things like bank loans and all of that. Yeah, it's freaking terrifying.
Well, there's the relatively famous episode of Black Mirror called Nosedive, which is all about that. That maybe people have seen.
There's a great episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry gets into it with an Uber driver over their ratings of each other.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a techno thriller, and kind of this corruption of this young person who's twisted by this company, and she starts buying in, and it's hurting her relationships with her family and stuff like that. And there's like a bit of a mystery, like one of the three founders, no one talks about them anymore or knows what they look like. And obviously he's one of the characters that we come in contact with, but we don't know it till the end, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, it's readable. It's funny. It's topical. And it's not too bad. It was made into a movie starring Emily Watson, and Tom Hanks played one of the founders of the company.
Yeah, I remember that.
They got very, very bad reviews. It's like 16% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, crap.
I never bothered to watch it. Just reading the book, if you're going to make an hour and 45-minute movie, you're just going to have to cut so much. Like, it's not super long, but it probably needs all the length that it takes.
Right. I can see that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting page turner, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think, Eggers is a writer who fits that mold pretty well. You said that it's funny, and that doesn't surprise me because he does have a really good sense of humor that kind of makes its way into all of his writing.
Yeah, it has fun skewering internet and social media culture, which is, I don't know, appealing to me. I enjoyed it. And got into a little bit of like the actual serious, darker stuff, but it was more kind of a fun poking.
Okay. All right.
Keep us going. What's your number 4?
All right. Number 4 is from a gigantic series of books that I don't even know how many of them there are. It's got to be 20 something at this point.
Oh, wow.
I feel like a new one comes out every freaking time I go to the grocery store. So at this point, I think I've probably read 4 of them. And I just chose the one that I found most appealing out of them. It is a Jack Reacher novel called One Shot by Lee Child. Jack Reacher,
One Shot.
The character, it was turned into a couple of films,
right,
starring Tom Cruise, of course.
Right.
Actually, I saw the Jack Reacher movie first, and I was like, "Wow, that was pretty badass. I'll check out this book." And the book was, from a literary standpoint, severely underwhelming. From a pure like popcorn standpoint, it was fun. It's a fun read. It's very, very quick. It's not
good.
It's kind of I don't want to say Da Vinci Code-esque in its plotting or anything like that, because it's not, but in terms of the sort of cliffhangers and keeping you on the edge the whole time type of deal, it does that.
Nice. Yeah.
And yeah, so Reacher is he's this loner character who just kind of bounces around, doesn't have any real bank accounts, just
Is any CIA or FBI or something? This is a spy government thing, right?
He was an ex-military police officer, ex-MP, and I believe like ended up high up in that area. I don't know the details that well because honestly they don't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was an elite member of the military special forces and all of that, highly trained, all of that stuff that you would completely expect. And I think Reacher is kind of the American James Bond, which is ironic because Lee Child is British.
I know the Bourne novels people read those too.
Yeah, I picked up one of the Bourne novels because I did enjoy the Bourne movies. I could not get...
Not good, huh?
I got about 110 pages into it, and I finally just said, I can't do this anymore. It's killing me. Like, there's... You know what it was? Is in the movies, Bourne is a likable character. In the books, he's just such an asshole. I couldn't do it. He was just like, there was nothing likable about him. He was just terrible to, he kidnaps the female interest, of course, and it's just got this very kind of condescending machismo to it that I found repulsive.
All right, well, they'll stick with the Reacher novels then, I guess.
Yeah, well, not to say that Reacher's not condescending
Oh,
and
okay.
overly macho bullshit, but it is,
Well,
I think
palatable. You can swallow it.
it's not. I think that the Bourne novels have not aged well. They were written,
Mm.
I'm not sure when they came out, but it was in the 80s, I think, if not earlier than that.
Mm.
I don't think that the character as written in those has aged well. Just as I doubt very much Jack Reacher will, and just as James Bond, if you really look at it, has not. I loved reading Casino Royale. I read the second James Bond novel, and I was like, wow, that's blatantly racist as hell.
Mm.
So anyway, One Shot it's a good introduction to the character. It's a good, quick story. It's an interesting plot, fast paced. No muss, no fuss. Get in, get out, have a good time.
I like it. Yeah, definitely sounds like something that I should give a try the next time I'm in an airport.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect airport read, honestly. I mean, for certain people.
And I'm sure you can pick up which one and just start. And you'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't know what order they go in. The ones that I've read, they're just the ones that have the most interesting cover.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, sounds good.
All right, what do you got it for?
All right, so my number 4 is I'm maybe stretching our definition here. This is maybe kind of middle tier literature light. I don't know what you want to call it.
How middle are we talking? Are we talking like upper middle?
Well, I don't know. I'll let you tell me because this is an author that you recommended to me.
Oh.
I don't think you've read this one because it's quite new. It came out in 2016.
Okay.
It is The Risen by Ron Rash.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep. I know Ron Rash. I did recommend Ron Rash to you.
You did. So do you want to do a couple minutes on who Ron Rash is generally? Because this is the only one I've read by him.
I think your assessment is fair of Ron Rash. Like, I wouldn't even say that he's not in that. So when I think second tier literary, I think of like probably John Irving comes to mind, Richard Russo. Maybe at the lower end of that would be like your Wally Lamb type of writer. I would say, it's hard to say with Ron Rash because in a lot of ways his work is deeper than theirs because there's a darkness to it, that there's more of an existential look at things than the authors I mentioned often provide.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to just. It would be hard to place him, like if you were doing some kind of weird ranking of, or giving somebody like a literariness grade or whatever. That's actually a good question. I don't know where I would put. And there are quite a few writers like him that are all in that kind of category.
I will try my best as someone who doesn't know as much as you. I will say that it felt like there was real, authorly intent going on.
Oh, for sure.
But it was within a text that cared about being a page turner and readable at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. And like I said, if you want a recommendation of writers like that, I would be more than happy if anybody wants to put up a post or leave a comment or anything. I'd be more than happy to put a whole list of writers to check out who are kind of in that vein where, like you said.
Yeah, Colby is the one to ask. Like, I am in this wonderful position in my life that I basically have to know nothing about what to read. I just have to ask Colby, and I'm given good stuff to read.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I do no research of my own. I just ask you.
I do joke with my students all the time because they have to do choice reading. I joke with them that I have the world's lamest superpower, and that is the ability to listen to a little bit about the stories a person likes typically, like in terms of TV and movies and whatnot, and recommend like a great book for them that they'll actually enjoy. It's a lame superpower, but I do have it.
You do have it, actually. I will say. So our listeners, definitely hit up Colby. Like, he will help you out.
But, to be fair, you've got the same thing with film.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I've gotten too I don't know, pretentious or up my own butt lately, but
no, I
can
think
try sometimes.
earlier on when you were first starting to really dive into film,
Oh, when I was like 17, yeah, I was a tryhard then, of course.
when you were in film school, you were definitely into more of the more esoteric, arty film that was not quite as accessible. But I think you do a really good job now of, when I ask for something to see, you're usually spot on in the recommendations you give
Well, I
me.
know not to give you those because, yeah.
Well, I mean, and if you do, it's got to be the right subject matter. Like I can sit through something
Right,
like
yeah.
that if it's the right topic, So
Yeah.
it's basically the same thing, right? It's knowing who you're talking to, knowing what they enjoy, and then using that to access your knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, The Risen by Ron Rash. So you haven't read this one, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so this one is set, as I gather, most of his stories are set in and around the Appalachia region.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it is set in a small town near Asheville, North Carolina in 1969 called Silva. And it's basically a story of these two brothers. There's Eugene and then his older brother Bill, who's like 4 years older or so. And the book opens with like the erosion of this riverbank and revealing a dead body, right? So it's got you hooked. And then Eugene, who is our main character, is reading this newspaper article about this discovery of this body of this girl who, back when he was 16 years old in 1969, he had this very interesting summer with, right? So it's very
spicy.
Much about... Well, I mean, it's kind of a coming of age / murder mystery. I don't know how else to
I know
describe
exactly
it.
what you're talking about, and that's actually a really good genre.
It is. So he and his brother meet up with this, magnetic young lady who's in from Daytona Beach for the summer or something, and they go out to the river and they see her, skinny dipping or whatever, and they work in their grandfather's like medical clinic, and they steal pills for her, and they have their first drinks with her and their first drugs, and they each have sex with her, their first sex, and it's definitely a coming of age thing all wrapped up together with some interesting weird psychological stuff going on with that threesome. But anyway, the crux of the book is that his brother told him that he saw this girl get on the bus and leave town when summer was over.
Ooh.
And now her body shows up 40 years later. So he's like, did my brother kill her? Did I kill her? Like, he's having trouble remembering.
Yep.
And it cuts back and forth a little bit between present day and back at this coming of age summer of 1969 story. And it's just, it's well written, page turning, maybe a little extra depth there than you usually get in like a popcorn book. And but it's only like 220 pages. I read it in a sitting or two. And I recommend it.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I'm definitely going to check that out because that sounds like a really cool opening to a story. Like, what a great way to enter a conflict, right? Like your brother, there was this story, and then all of a sudden, everything is called into question that you've ever known.
This body shows up, and it's like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
that's
so
awesome.
There's the mystery of what really happened to her, and then as it cuts back, you get the coming of age. And then you compare them in the present, like our main character, Eugene, is a failed writer and an alcoholic and has failed. And his brother became like this huge successful surgeon.
Kind of sounds a little like the Netflix show Bloodline.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which, God, Bloodline, the first season of that was so damn good until the last 2 minutes. And then they ruined
I know what you mean.
entire thing. And then the seasons after that proceeded to destroy it. But the first...
It was probably written with a different ending as like a one-off thing. And then it became popular. And they're like, we need some way to continue this. Yeah.
Watch Bloodline. And then the second they're all sitting around a table at the end of it, turn it off.
And that's the entirety of Bloodline.
Yes,
what a great show.
And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's similar themes, like, right? One brother's a total fuck up.
Yeah.
The other one's successful. Yeah. And yeah, I dig that. I really like those stories where the relationships always had some tension and something comes along that causes it to kind of boil over. Those are great stories. And Ron Rash is kind of the poet laureate of Appalachia, you know, in a similar way that Dennis Lehane is the poet laureate of Boston.
Boston, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think the two of them are kind of a kind in a way. They're writers who, it's a lot of plot, but there's a lot of psychological depth to it as well. And they're very, very driven by a sense of place. And again, that's a whole category of writers.
Yeah, and in this particular one, he does a good job of flashing back to also a particular time in the summer of 1969.
Well, it sounds interesting. I mean, that really does sound interesting to me. I want to check that one out.
Yeah, it's a nice, quick read and pretty good.
I think that's definitely a thing that's growing because as authors are starting to struggle to find audiences more, as reading becomes less popular, you're seeing them move a little more towards plot as a way of, you can still get at the same themes and ideas while having plot. And they're starting to realize things like in shows like the first season of True Detective, for example, you know, you can get at a lot of really interesting and great ideas starting from a place of murdered person. We have to solve this.
Lots of plot.
Yeah. So, it's a more common thing. You can definitely tell why it's getting more common. And I personally like it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it at all. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Good choice.
There you go. The Risen by Ron Rash.
And that's number 4?
Yeah, number 4.
Wow. All right. Curious what's higher than that.
All right. Well, let's, you go first. Number 3.
All right. Number 3 is a book you recommended to me when we were about 17.
Oh, I know what this is.
Yep, you do know. I'm guessing you do know what this is. And it is actually sitting right on, I have a podium in my classroom with a little shelf off to the side of it. And I like to keep, I like to rotate books in and out of these stands that I have. And those are kind of like the top recommended things for that week or that month or whatever. And this is sitting on one of those stands right now. It is the book Flash Forward by Robert J. Sawyer. And
interesting.
Yeah, you, I guess, had read this in high school. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how did you hear about it? Was it?
I don't know. It might have been an airport purchase. I forget. Yeah.
But I remember you telling me about it, and I remember
It's got a heck of a premise that hooks you. Yeah.
Oh, the premise
is
fantastic. Yeah. So it's kind of it's what I call like realistic sci-fi. Does that sound right to you?
It's a grounded science fiction. Yeah.
So you've got this science experiment going on, and something happens, and everybody on Earth kind of passes out for 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, they aren't unconscious. Their consciousness is transported to their own body a certain amount of time in the future. I forget how long it was
20 years.
20 years. That's right. 20 years in the future. So first of all, you have the obvious problems with everyone on the planet passing out for 2 minutes at the exact same time.
Yeah, like airplanes and cars and stuff.
Exactly.
Like, there's lots of death.
Significant portion of the population is in airplanes, driving cars, doing things that you wouldn't want to be passing out in the middle of. And so a lot of people die. And so the world is kind of thrown into chaos. Everything's smoldering. There's all this just, people don't know what the fuck just happened. They're thrown off. Everybody's freaking out. And you have then, after the initial shock of the kind of the catastrophe of it, you begin to enter the secondary catastrophe, which is the stuff that people saw. And
people saw their own futures, and it's like, you know, is that destined to happen? Is it predestined? Like, people saw themselves with a new spouse or something.
Yeah.
They're like, it's cool how it does it very realistically. Like people go on message boards and like, hey, were you at so and so in the future?
Yeah.
That was me.
Oh, it's
Let's meet
awesome.
now. Yeah.
And
yeah, it's really cool.
And you have a character who sees nothing and determines after people start talking about this and the message boards get out that a lot of people saw nothing. And seeing nothing,
yeah, that must be because they were dead.
That you died. And so a lot of people would be like, yeah, you saw nothing because what I saw was me at your funeral. And this one character sees nothing and he's trying to figure out what happened because in 20 years he wouldn't be that old. And he come to find out, he gets a message back saying, in 20 years, I'm a detective assigned to solving your murder.
Yeah, that's right. It's so cool.
Boom, there it goes. Like he's got to solve his own murder 20 years in the future and try and prevent it. And then the other guy is trying to, solve some marital problems and stuff like that.
You
just it's
and
such a cool
one
concept.
like younger. Yeah, there's one younger kid who's never been with the woman who like his flash forward. He was with someone. He's like trying to track him down.
That's right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
But don't judge this by the really crappy TV show that came out. I don't know when it was. It was probably almost 10 years ago now.
So that aired on ABC at the end of 2009, exactly 10 years ago in September. Yeah. That was completely different from the book. Like I didn't watch the show because I'd just heard it was terrible. So I looked it up and it was like, it follows like two FBI agents investigating this flash forward, not scientists like the book.
Oh.
The blackout was for 6 months forward, not 20 years.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And it's like, the event was not like a science accident. It was like a terrorist attack. The FBI agents have to figure out or something. It sounds so terrible. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that sound what here's the thing. They took the very smallest kernel of that and just decided to turn it into something else that was worse. But this book is it's really good. It's such an interesting concept. And it deals with those issues. It doesn't deal with them too deeply, but it deals with issues of predestination, fate, and free will that are fascinating, and it handles them in cool ways. And you've got a murder mystery. You've got, how do you continue a marriage when in 20 years you saw yourself in the middle of an affair?
Right. Yeah. It does. I think the book is so readable because it handles this like high concept like event very realistically. Like the behaviors of these characters like track. It's like that's what real people would do with this information and how they would react and overreact and whatever.
That's a perfect way of putting it. And that's why I use sci-fi very loosely. Because to me, the only thing sci-fi about this book is that initial blackout.
The flash itself. Yeah.
And then other than that, it's just a book of dealing with the fallout.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's, again, this is not written poetically. It's not anything where the characters are super deep or anything like that, which is why it's
it's a fun read. Yeah.
Boy, it's a fun read. It's a really good one. I recommend it. Like I said, it's sitting up there. It's recommended highly to my students.
Excellent.
Cool book.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I got one recommendation into you. Granted, it was however many years ago, 18 or something now, but whatever.
Well, you know what? I read that book back when we were kids, and it has stayed with me all that time. You should have seen me in the bookstore. I was in a used bookstore, and I saw a copy of it, and I was shopping for books for my classroom, and I saw a copy of that, and I was so excited. I went running. I was like, look what I found. Scott made me read this book when we were teenagers, and it's amazing. It's like, holy crap. I always remembered it, but I couldn't remember who wrote it or what it was. Oh, man, I was so pumped.
All right, so that is, what is it again?
That's number 3, Flash Forward by Robert J. Sawyer.
There you go. All right, cool. I like that a lot. I'm glad that came back around.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you got at 3?
All right, so I have at number 3, by an author whose very boring name will be instantly recognizable. I have a Dan Brown book at number 3.
I know you prefer one of them over the more popular one. So am I correct in that?
Perhaps. It is not a Robert Langdon book.
Oh.
It is not. It is his very first novel, 1998's Digital Fortress.
Okay. All right.
So, not Robert Langdon. The main character of this is a cryptographer named Susan Fletcher.
He sure does like his his puzzles, doesn't he?
He does like his puzzles. We got digital puzzles this time. All right. So, in Dan Brown fashion, I'll try to be brief here. So this explores themes of like government surveillance of, citizens' private lives and stuff like that. So it's about this supercomputer called Translator that encounters this new like encryption code called Digital Fortress, and it can't break it. So the NSA brings in our main character, this cryptographer, to try to help crack it. And there's this ex-NSA employee who is trying to auction off the code to this thing on his website. And if he's killed, he has a partner who's going to give it out for free or something. There's all kinds of conspiracies and backstabbings and triple crossings. But there's a lot of cool like code breaker nerdy stuff. There's a character with a secret identity that our main character is trying to find, and it ends up being someone that we've met, and it's like an anagram of their name.
Always.
There's a romantic subplot.
Always.
One of the main good guys ends up being revealed to be the big bad all along.
I love that Dan Brown's books are essentially
all the same.
They're Mad Libs is what they are.
They really are. And this one's going to especially tickle you. Similar to his later novels, there's also an assassin out there in this one.
Oh, wow.
That's trying to take out our main character's fiance.
Good God.
Because
if it works, run with it, I guess.
It works. Hey, it was enjoyable. I can't lie. And to be fair, this was his first one. So this is when he's coming up with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Came up with the formula that worked. And I will say that there's a cool, the code author is found dead, and he's wearing a ring that apparently can decode the decryption or whatever, and it's this MacGuffin that people are chasing around the world trying to find. It's pretty cool.
This is why people love conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah. And I will say it's the best thing I will say about this book is that our protagonist is a woman, and she's very likable. And she does not suffer from the usual shortcomings in paperbacks by male authors. If you can help me expound on that.
No, you can get it.
Doesn't
take it.
Oh, yeah. She doesn't. You know how sometimes they come across.
I know. I just want to hear you say it.
Well, it's either like totally unrealistic as people. They're just like super geniuses or super sexy or whatever.
Right.
Or they're just clearly a male character that they named a female. Like there's nothing female about them.
Right.
Other than their name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Well done. You handled that well.
Okay, thank you. And in this novel, to Dan Brown's credit, I don't think that is the case. She reads like an actual woman human being.
Which you would know as a woman, right?
Well, from what the best I can tell.
I'm messing with you. Obviously, you can. You're smart enough to tell when it rings false. You're smart enough to tell when it rings true.
Yeah. And there's stuff about, in the workplace, like how she gets along with male superiors and stuff that reads pretty genuine.
That's interesting for 1998.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's all wrapped up in a super, super page-turning cliffhanger at the end of every chapter, code breaker, conspiracy, race to crack the code in time story.
Is every chapter like 2.5 pages long, like the Da Vinci Code?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my God. He didn't even know it, but he was writing Twitter novels.
Well, yeah. Well, I will say for this one, they're more like 12 pages long, not 2.
Whoa, well, never mind. I'm out.
But no, it's for what it is. If it was so easy, everyone would do it.
True.
It is
True.
Genuinely enjoyable and page-turny. And I remember it. It's been a little while, but it has stuck with me much more than, honestly, the Da Vinci Code. And I think I read Angels and Demons too. But this one is definitely my favorite, Dan Brown.
All
Digital
right.
Fortress.
Hey, good pick. I had a feeling Dan Brown was going to appear on your list. I just didn't know where.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Well, there you go. Number 3.
Nice. Why don't we take a break and then we'll come back with our top 2.
Sounds good to me, man.
You're listening to Lists. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode. Also, if you like what we're doing, please leave us a rating and a review. 5 stars will really help us expand our audience and get the word out. Thank you in advance for all your help and for listening. Now back to our top 5 Airport Paperbacks.
All right, so we're down to the last 2 here, and I think you're up first, buddy. Number 2.
All right, so coming in at number 2 for me is one that I would probably put more towards that end of having some kind of a literary value, although I wouldn't say there's a ton. This probably isn't like B-level literary, like some of the authors we talked about. This would probably be the next level down. But anyway, rather than belabor that point, it's better just to get on with it. This is a book by Audrey Niffenegger, and it is called The Time Traveler's Wife. Have you?
Oh, okay.
You heard of this one?
I've heard of it.
This is one of the cooler premises. What I really like about this book, and you know me, I'm not going to pick up a book that's about like tracing a couple through the history of their relationship and all of. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But this is that book. It just has such a fresh take on it because the dude's a time traveler.
No, nice.
So the guy in the book, the main character is a woman who, as we meet her, is dealing with the recent death of her husband. She's been widowed, and it's a combination of profound grief because of this deep love she has for her husband, and also a little bit of relief because the relationship was so taxing and challenging because he was constantly, and this sounds ridiculous, but please trust me when I say she pulls it off. He keeps he'll randomly just drop out and travel through time. Like she'll be in the middle of a conversation with him, poof, he's gone. Right? And
that old chestnut. Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Yeah. It's like a person, he's got the hiccups too often. It's annoying. What a weird marital quirk. Anyway, so God, it sounds so dumb when you say it out loud, but I'm telling you, this is pulled off really well. Anyway, so it traces their relationship in the present as she grieves the loss of her husband and is kind of having all these mixed feelings, but also goes back through all these different points in time where they were either together in that particular present moment and he would leave, or when she was much younger and he would appear. And so there's this interesting element of she'll be in college and he's there and she knows him because she first met him when she was a little girl, which gives...
That's kind of creepy.
It is. There's an element...
Okay.
So part of the mixed emotions is she starts to wonder how much of how deeply in love with this man she was is dependent on the fact that he really is the only man she ever knew. Like she had lovers and boyfriends and stuff like that, but he had
sounds like he was stalking her through time.
Yeah, and he had kind of like, she had always had boyfriends with his permission and stuff like that. And
Ew.
so, yeah, it's got it, but it's not done
Interesting.
in a gross way. It's done in
Okay.
a way that it causes her to question whether or not this love was something she would have felt had they met as adults, or if it's something that
Right.
she was kind of subtly manipulated into
Right.
over the years.
Interesting.
And I don't think with any ill intent on his part. Just
Oh, okay.
it was more of a
Just naturally.
like
Yeah.
he knew that he was with her in the future, and so went back and kind of, and so it creates this weird kind of paradox, a time loop that has its own
Right.
issues. But anyway,
Yeah.
you get to see this play out, and it just has a really fascinating plot, really interesting, kind of like we were talking about with Flash Forward. Just an interesting
Yeah.
concept that's grounded in very real people. And like I said, it raises those deeper questions in a way that kind of lends it more towards the literary than than
Interesting.
a Jack Reacher,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's a really, really good read. It sounds weird when you describe it, and I can't do it justice in describing it. I remember I think my mother recommended this to me, and it may be the only book. Sorry, Mom. This may be the only book my mom has ever recommended to me that I actually read. Usually I'm just
Wow.
like, yeah, that's great, Mom. Jodi Picoult sounds awesome.
Wow.
I love my mom. I do. She's a great reader. She is doing great work keeping the world of literature alive. Well, hold on. Books alive.
Wow.
But she's got her taste.
Keep digging that hole, buddy. Keep digging.
I can't get out of it. I'm screwed. Mom, I love you. I love you. I love you. You know that I think you read terrible books and I laugh at them with you, not at you. Okay. That's just your son being a pretentious English teacher asshole. I love you.
All right. That you saved it okay there. Good job.
Did recommend this book to me, and she was right. It was really, really good.
There you go.
It's a page turner. It's fascinating. It's good. I recommend it. It's another one that makes its way into those books that I recommend to my students. This one, though, they don't tend to tackle because it's a little bit longer. And I think, again, kind of what we ran into here is when you explain it, it just sounds super weird. But when you actually read it, you roll with it. You just kind of buy the whole concept and you go with it.
Got it. Well, as I said in a previous podcast, I am a sucker for time travel stories, so I might have to check this one out. I'm pretty sure my wife has read this, so.
Oh, really? I would love to talk about it with Emily. Yeah.
So I'll maybe have to pick this one up.
And
the time traveler's wife.
She may actually have a better memory of it than I do, because it has been a long time since I've read it. And when I came up with this list, I put a star next to it as a like, hey, I need to go back and reread that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do remember her liking it a lot. So
yeah, I mean, it's number 2 on my list. It's way up there.
Yeah.
And if you're a sucker for time travel, this is a really interesting take on it. A really interesting take on it.
Well, yeah, now I'm definitely in. Okay.
Sweet. All right, number 2, what do you got?
Well, my number 2 is going to be really easy. It is Flash Forward by Robert J. Sawyer.
We do have one the same.
We do. It's the one I recommended to you. So we just talked about it, but I will add that it is my sticker pick of the week.
Oh, nice.
So if you're just joining us, our list sticker of the week is something that each of us give to one entry from our list that we are most encouraging you, our listeners, to seek out and watch or listen to, or in this case, read, if you have not already. So this is my sticker pick, Flash Forward.
It's a great sticker pick.
Yeah, I really recommend it. It's like 300 pages, but they're like, big font. It'll go really fast. And it's such a cool premise, like we talked about before. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. It's just my sticker pick, and I really recommend it.
And if the two of us haven't sold you on it yet, please know that it was within a coin flip of being my sticker pick for the week as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I recommend it that highly.
Makes sense. Yeah. And as a bit of a science nerd, I especially appreciate that the science is quite right. It's about scientists at CERN, and they're trying to look for the Higgs boson and everything, which this book was written in 1999, and scientists at CERN found the Higgs boson in 2009. So,
Whoa. Did we all flash forward?
no, I don't think we did, but
Are we in the middle of it right now?
Oh, no.
It's 2019.
All
That
right.
would be 10 years. Holy crap. That would be awesome because I was a lot better in 2009.
Yeah, this long flash forward, you'd be like, oh, wow.
I'd be like, awesome. I learned a lot. I'd be like, boy, do I got a lot to tell you. We're going to fix some shit.
Yeah, we got to go back and make some different choices. So anyway, there you go. My number 2 was your number, what was it, 3?
Yep, it was my number 3.
All right. So I guess nothing to do but number 1, man. Our top 5 airport paperbacks. I give it up to you.
All right. So number 1 for me, I probably stretched the literary aspect a bit far. Some people will say a bit far. Some people would say, no, that's fine. So I'll leave it up to you. Number 1 for me is a book by Richard Russo. It is Empire Falls.
Okay.
And
I have heard of it, and I have not read it.
Okay. It's definitely, I consider it an airport paperback because it was a bestseller. It was turned into an HBO miniseries starring Paul Newman and a host of other well-known actors and actresses. It was a book you definitely would have seen in bookstores. It was very, very popular. And it is.
When did it come out?
It was written in 2001. Published in 2001. We've talked about that before.
Right.
So yeah, it takes place in a small town, Empire Falls, Maine, and it's about this guy who runs a grill there, like a kind of greasy spoon diner, and the whole town's been controlled by this really rich family that controls everything, and he has some interesting connections to them, and they have some interesting connections to him, and it's about him dealing with his daughter, and his daughter starts this friendship with this kid in town who's kind of looked at as a weirdo, and there's some issues, and there are all kinds of interesting conflicts at play here. It's a lot of fraternal conflict, it's a lot of paternal conflict, it's a lot of parental conflict, it's a lot of all kinds of that. It's a great sort of small town. Everybody knows each other. Everything's connected, but this town's got some deep, dark secrets that nobody knows, and they start to come out, and problems happen because of that. So,
is there a plot that makes them come out, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to ruin it, because it is a really good it's a good plot, and I don't want to ruin it. It's a really good story, and it's very entertaining. It's a quick read, even though it does have that little bit of added literary stuff to it. These are definitely more well-rounded characters. It's a richer text. Richard Russo is a well-respected writer. Some people would probably get upset with me for saying that he's kind of in that B category. But I'm going to stick to my guns on that one. I do think that he is, for sure. And I also think that that's by his own choice. That's not saying that he's not capable. I think that's an important distinction. So it's just it's a good story about small town, small family, all that stuff. And it does have a little bit of added kind of twist to it. So I can't get too much into the plot because of that. But Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's number one for me. And the reason it's number one is because obviously I skew towards the literary. And even I think at the end of the day, when I was deciding on a number one, it was what for me personally is an airport paperback doing.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
having that extra dimension is really important to me.
Very cool. All right. So that is Empire Falls.
That's right. Richard Russo's Empire Falls.
All right. So that is your list. Have you given us a sticker pick yet?
No, I screwed up. It's not that I forgot the sticker pick. I just forgot to mention that the book was my sticker pick. And then as soon as I heard you say yours, I kind of clenched up inside. Anyway, yeah, my bad. So like I said, Flash Forward was basically a coin flip away from being my sticker pick. Really good, but it wasn't. I actually ended up going with The Time Traveler's Wife. And the reason that that's my sticker pick this week is that it is so hard to explain, and it sounds so weird when you explain it. But
that you just got to read it.
I really want people to read it. I think it's a great book.
Okay.
And I think it's a really well told story. So I'm making it my sticker pick in the hopes that somehow makes up for how weird I made it sound.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, and I apologize for screwing up the whole sticker picks thing. So.
Oh, no, it's fine. All right, cool. All right, so yeah, my number one. All right. So my number one it came out in 2014, so quite recent.
Wow.
And it absolutely was an airport bookstore where I bought it. And I bought it and read it. And I think I finished it either on the flight or I don't know. It was a quick read. Anyway, it's a science fiction-y type novel, and not super grounded. But all right. Anyway, my number one is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer.
I just watched that movie like in August.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it got made into a movie that sort of barely is the same as the book. Not really. It's
a weird ass movie.
Yeah. It's an even weirder book.
Oh.
Yeah. So Annihilation it's like 200 pages, and it's
that short?
The first book. Yeah. And it's the first book in a trilogy, actually, called, I think, the Southern Reach trilogy. I don't know. I haven't read the second and third one yet. But yeah, so this book, how to describe, oh man. So there's this place on Earth called Area X that scientists are unable to explain and have quarantined off and are sending in expeditions of teams to try to figure out what's going on in there. And there have been many previous teams that have gone in, and other expeditions come back they just disappear, or they come back and then they kill themselves, or they have aggressive cancers, or there's all kinds of crazy stuff. There's been no successful scientific survey of this area. So this book picks up with a team of 4 women who are unnamed in the book. They're just a biologist, an anthropologist, a psychologist, and a surveyor.
And that's all they're ever called in the book?
Yeah.
Wow, how does that work smoothly?
Well, the biologist said this, and the psychologist said that.
And that doesn't get tiresome?
No.
Huh. All right, well.
Yeah, so anyway, you followed this team, because they've tried teams of all men, or, teams of 12, teams of 2, they're trying every permutation. So we follow the story of 4 women, and they enter this crazy area that's this biological, I don't know, nightmare. It's a weird book. It's kind of like a horror novel, I guess, like a gothic horror type book, with science fiction overtones, but it's not like technology. It's a biological mutation, weird stuff going on.
How close to the novel does the movie hew?
Nothing beyond what I've just said.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
I mean,
so
tonally,
they're very different.
Tonally, at least, the movie fits what you're saying.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of like a sci-fi horror.
Yeah. But in the book, there's a large part of it is them going down a staircase that they don't even attempt to do in the movie, because it is. This is gonna. I don't know how good this is gonna make for a podcast episode. It is indescribable. I don't even know how to describe what going down the staircase is like. And it's like 50 pages, but it's enthralling.
Really?
Yeah. So there's this spiral staircase that goes down into the ground, which the biologist keeps calling a tower. And there's like weird cursive alien writing on the walls, and there's like plants growing out of it, and there's these spores that they inhale that give them like visions. And yeah, so why is this book my number one? Why is it good? I think it's really cool how you are always in the point of view of the biologist, and she knows nothing about these other three people she's with, not even their names, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only their vocation.
Oh, okay. So
profession.
They're not even allowed to tell each other their names.
No, or they don't know them. Yeah. And not to spoil anything, but like midway in, you find out that the psychologist has like trigger words that she can say to like knock the other ones out, or like make them like, listen to her commands and stuff. And and there's like this whole conspiracy thing about why they're really there. And like I said, unlike the movie, which has a very definitive ending, well, sort of, this one is obviously the first of a trilogy. It sets up as much as it wraps up. But it's still really good as a standalone. And there's the story of her husband, our biologist character. Her husband was on one of the teams that went in before and never returned, unlike the movie. And so she's trying to maybe find him. And anyway, it's just interesting, the psychology. It's really like a psychological torture experiment being done on these people, and you kind of figure it out as it goes. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the book, but I did. The movie, I kind of ended up with mixed feelings about, because I did not find the ending entirely satisfying. But that's obviously not what we're talking about right now, so it's irrelevant. But the whole concept of this world where biology does not work in the same way, and all that kind of stuff, that was really fascinating. And a lot of the creatures and stuff that emerged were both terrifying and interesting and beautiful in moments. And
yeah. And I will say the prose, its description of all that stuff is well done and really interesting. It's unlike anything I've ever really read. I guess I would describe it as like a psychological horror science fiction story, but it's really hard to describe.
Now I'm curious. So like, what really fascinates me here is you said it's 200 or so pages, right? Which is extraordinarily short, especially for an Airport paperback, right?
Yeah.
And you said it's part of a trilogy. So I mean, it hooked you like that. What's kept you from taking on the other two so far?
I think when I read it, it had just come out and they weren't out yet, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. But I plan to. Like, I'm going to continue it.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, you're going to have to, when you do finish it, please let us know how the other ones are, because you, at least for me personally, you made it sound really interesting. Sounds
good. I thought I was struggling. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
It's literally like 195 pages. I think I read it on a long flight. And it is unlike anything you've ever read, and strangely page turning, but like very weird, but still good. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, just the fact that it sounds fresh is interesting to me, because you don't get too much of that these days. It's hard to come up with something really fresh. And
I think the thing that I'm not articulating that I really want to is that it's well written. Like, it's not like super literary, but it's like there's actual.
It's not Dan Brown.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but okay.
Look, I mean, I wasn't going to crap on Richard Russo, because he can put a sentence together, and so can like Feniger and even Sawyer, but Dan Brown couldn't write his way out of a paper bag sentence-wise. Plot-wise, all the credit in the world. Well, I mean, for the one plot that he repeats over and over. But his sentences are hot garbage.
Yeah. Not the case with this book. It's very unique and descriptive language, yeah.
Huh. And you know what? The thing I love about these books, that we've kind of, on a few of these, straddled that line between literary and the plot-driven
popcorn.
Kind of... Yeah, popcorn, as you describe it, which I like the term.
Okay.
The thing I like about these books, I love about these books, and they play such an important part in the world of reading, is that they're access points to literature for people.
Yeah, they're gateways for sure.
It's exactly right. It's a gateway, and they're just really, really important. If you can enjoy Dennis Lehane, if you can enjoy Ron Rash, if you can enjoy Richard Russo, if you can enjoy Annihilation, the likelihood of you starting to appreciate craft in literature becomes so much greater, and you can start to enjoy richer texts, and that's an important thing. It really is, and it proves that for a book to have depth and meaning does not mean that it has to be boring.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't emphasize that enough. It does not have to be boring to be literary.
I think that's an excellent sentiment to end on. Yeah,
I agree. We should, on that note, because just damn it, I want people to read more.
Hey, I'm all with you. Reading is good. Reading is fun. You don't have to read War and Peace. You can try out one of these Airport Paperbacks we've just run down and enjoy yourself.
Like I said earlier, too, it is a weird and lame superpower. But if you have enjoyed something like a Ron Rash novel, or you want to know more writers like Ron Rash, say you decide to pick that up and read it, like I'm definitely going to, probably not before next week, obviously, but say you do pick one of those up and you enjoy it, please let us know if you want some tips on where to go next, because I can just give names for days.
Yeah, Colby is the one to ask. Definitely hit him up. He knows his stuff.
And I enjoy doing it. I love doing it because it gets me thinking about it. It's fun for me.
I love giving movie recommendations. It's like my favorite thing.
Right. And unlike Scott, I will not sit there and make sure that you read it under the perfect conditions. I won't. I'm going to climb into your bed with you. Make sure that your covers are nope, sorry. You're going to need one extra blanket just over your feet so that they're at the proper temperature.
You're marking your page by folding over the corner? You're not going to use a bookmark?
No. Like, whoa. What are you doing there, bub? Careful with the spine.
Yeah. All right. Funny, hilarious stuff as always.
Sorry, that light's a little too bright. I'm going to need you to take it down approximately 4 lumens.
Hey, all right. Lumens, good for you.
Hey, you like that? That was solid.
Not bad. Get it under 20-foot candles and you'll be all right. All right.
Candles. I like it.
No, foot candles. It's a measurement. All right.
All right, you lost me, dork.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, that does it for our top 5 Airport Paperbacks. We hope you give some of these a try, and please, as always, let us know if you do.
Yeah, and use them as a gateway.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just take a quick second, and then we'll announce next week's topic.
Time to talk about next week's list. So, Scott, do you want to introduce this one?
I do. And I have to give credit where credit is due. This topic comes from my wife.
That's right. It does.
It was her. Yeah, it was her idea.
She had a couple good ideas she threw our way.
No, she did. All right. So, and this is the first one really that neither of us had any hand in coming up with. So we'll see how we do, if we struggle or not.
I am curious to see how we do with a list that was not of our own devising.
Yeah. And again, please reach out to us on social media or email or wherever and give us some topics that you would like us to do. We're all for doing stuff that you guys want to hear.
Yeah, and make it a challenge. I'm always up for. The whole reason we started this was that when Scott first came to me with the first list idea, it was a challenge, and it was tough to do.
Yeah, it was.
And
it was fun.
That's the fun part of it. And so there is an element of it being harder when we don't come up with the list topic,
I think so, yeah.
So anyway,
all right, so here we go.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah. Next week, we're going back to the realm of television. We are going to count down our top 10 TV couples.
That's a good topic. Emily, great topic.
I like it. I have a couple questions I want to clarify with you before we wrap up.
Okay.
So, are we going to specifically limit this to romantic couples?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's too easy to go with like buddy cops or anything like that. I think,
yeah.
And obviously, I don't want to speak for Emily, but my understanding from how you presented it was the spirit of it was romantic couples.
Okay, so definitely romantic couples only. And just for the sake of diversity in our list, I think we should limit it to one couple per show.
See, I strongly disagree on this one.
Because you want to be lazy and have like three from Lost.
It's not about laziness. It's about the quality of the relationships.
Well, you can bring them all up when you say the one that is from that show.
But that's not fair because they might be better than some of the other ones. I'm not going to do it just for the sake. Listen, if Lost had the best relationships of all shows, shouldn't it be awarded for that? I'm not going to do
first,
it just
shows that you have seen. Let's calm down.
Just for the sake of peppering in a few extra titles. I'm not going to do that.
All right. Okay, fair enough. If you don't want to have that as a rule, then we can leave that out.
I refuse.
All right, it has been refused. You heard it here first. All right.
And I think it'll be interesting too, without having that restriction, how many do actually make it on the list.
Well, that's true. All right.
Now here's a question. What if you have, let's call it like a Jerry and Elaine situation?
Oh, where there's no real, how do you say it?
They weren't really an official couple, with the exception of an episode or so early on. They kind of comedically slept together a couple times.
Right.
Just pure curiosity. I'm fine with it. Either way you go with this one. But
I think that's probably just something we should leave up to interpretation, right?
Okay. So
I don't think we need to set hard and fast one way or the other.
So one night stand can count.
Yeah, but in the history of television, is a one night stand gonna be over other like consummated romances? I mean, maybe. But we'll find out.
Unlikely, but I think there have been some really solid, they do a pretty good build up to.
Yeah, I mean, usually a will they won't they eventually do on TV.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
I like the rules. I'm glad you conceded on the multiple couples. Just to see.
Yeah, reluctantly.
Just to see.
That's fine. All right. Well, there you go. Next week, top 10 TV couples. I
already got
it's gonna be
4
hard.
couples from Lost.
Yeah. See, this is what I was afraid of.
I'm kidding. It's only 3.
All right. Well, tune in next week for 10 from me and, a bunch of Lost talk from Colby.
Hey, you could do a lot worse than that.
There you go. All right. Well, that's it for us. We'll, I guess, see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. We are available on everything now. So subscribe and do us a favor. Get a review or a rating up there for us. Help us out.
That would be nice. Thank you so much in advance.
Until next week.
See you then.